Now, before we start this evening's official proceedings, let us have 10 seconds of silence, just to bow our heads in commemoration of all of the climate-related tragedies that we've seen happen in the past week and a half, Morocco, Libya, and many more. So 10 seconds. Thank you very much. So my name is Matthew Wilson. I'm the ambassador of the beautiful island of Barbados. Not as beautiful as St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I have been told I must say this evening, but we can have a discussion afterwards. It's a real pleasure for me to be here to welcome two very, very special guests. Special because they've traveled all the way from Latin America and the Caribbean. Extra special because they're leading advocates in the region on trade and sustainability. And extra, extra special because they're members of the Coalition of Trade and Climate Ministers. And on that one, I think that deserves a clap because they were one of the first. So we have Senator, the Honorable Keisal Peters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And we have the Honorable Daniel Legarda, Minister of Production, Foreign Trade, Investments, and Fisheries of Ecuador. Now, I must extend the regrets of Caroline, who of course is the ED of TESS. As you know, she had to leave urgently for a family emergency. We miss her. She would love to be here, but she's here in spirit. Actually, she's more than here in spirit because she sent me notes of what I should say. But, you know, that's Caroline. So first of all, she wanted me to thank her incredible team, the steering committee members, and all of you who have engaged with TESS from the very beginning, and those of you who believe in what TESS stands for and what it is trying to achieve. But I want to personally commend Caroline and her team for their commitment and their passion. TESS has grown from an idea into a philosophy, into a movement, ensuring that trade works for the environment and the SDGs, and that we are strongest when we bring the views of all of the constituencies together, especially the most vulnerable and the marginalized. TESS is about inclusion, adding value to the debates, rigorous analytical work and thought leadership, and a genuine desire to do good. I call on all partners to keep supporting and keep investing. From TESS's work on plastics, to carbon border measures, to the coalition, to engaging youth and women, TESS has become a critical part of our knowledge and engagement ecosystem. So with that, I am really delighted to welcome Minister Peters from my region to say a few words. Minister, over to you.
His Excellency Daniel Legarda, Minister of Production, Foreign Trade, Investment, and Fisheries of Ecuador, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Before going any further, I wish to express my condolences to Caroline, who would have been here moderating this afternoon's session had it not been for her family emergency and her need to return to Australia. And I just want to convey my thoughts and my prayers to Caroline and her family in this very difficult time. The pleasure is certainly mine to be here with you this evening, and I promise not to keep you too long away from the eats and the treats. Now, I am from a country and a region that is fighting for its existence in the face of the imminent threat posed by the climate crisis. The irony is that our contribution to the problem is very negligible. Yet, failure to solve the problem will result in our total destruction. In terms of scale, my country and my region are also very small players in the global trade. Therefore, where trade flows contribute to climate change, we are not part of the problem. Yet, we are disproportionately affected by its impacts. The world stands on the precipice of a global environmental and climate crisis. And it is countries like mine that are in a death or life race against time. This is why we are sparing no effort to take action domestically as best as we can, and it is why we are advocating on the international stage, including through fora such as the Coalition of Trade Ministers on Climate. Global cooperation on trade and climate is not and cannot be an option, but an imperative. Our present is at stake, and our future generations are also at stake. Without action now, we also cannot take for granted that we will have future generations if the one planet that we call home becomes inhospitable as a result of our recklessness. For us, sustainability is not just an environmental issue. It is also an economic, social, and moral imperative. Therefore, our collective actions or lack thereof will determine the kind of life we enjoy now, as well as what future, if any, we leave for our children and our grandchildren. Permit me to briefly outline 4 key priorities that we can contemplate for international cooperation on the trade and sustainability agenda. Key priority 1. The multilateral trading system must be equipped to respond adequately to issues of trade and sustainability. In this regard, fora such as the World Trade Organization must be utilized, consistent with their relevant mandate. For example, WTO members must uphold the principle of transparency, which underpins the organization with respect to their measures, policies, and programs designed to combat climate change and promote sustainability. This includes transparency with respect to carbon taxes, industrial policies, and incentives. Where rulemaking is possible and desirable or even mandated, such as with respect to trade in environmental goods and services, the rulemaking should be pursued. Where there can be sharing of good and best practices, then this should also be pursued. Where we need to facilitate technology transfer, especially to developing and least developed countries, then we must also ensure that WTO rules can facilitate rather than hinder this from taking place. In short, there is a major role for the WTO, and it is for the membership to take action on it. Key priority 2. International cooperation can be used to build and promote the circular economy, especially in those spaces such as among SIDS, where there is a lack of technical and financial capacity. International cooperation can help establish common standards and practices for sustainable production and consumption, and provide adequate avenues for SIDS to develop the capacity to become major players with respect to the circular economy. Key priority 3. The reform of the global financial architecture and environment to better facilitate climate financing, especially for SIDS, is also an imperative. This is underscored in the Bridgetown Initiative 2.0, which seeks to set an agenda for reform of the global financial architecture and development finance in the context of the intersecting global crises of debt and climate. Too many SIDS currently do not qualify for concessional financing due to the application of criteria such as gross national income, GNI per capita. This has the net effect of undermining the special case of many SIDS for sustainable development. Meanwhile, countries with the financial muscle are rolling out green industrial policies to the tune of billions of dollars, which will likely allow them a massive advantage when it comes to global trade in green goods and services. International cooperation must help to level the playing field for all countries, including the countries of my region. This then takes me to the fourth key priority, which is a call for fairness and justice with respect to global action on trade and climate. In this regard, international cooperation has to enfranchise the disenfranchised. Here, we are talking of coalescing around an agenda for inclusive growth and fair trade. This agenda would demand that no one be left behind, no country and no individual. This would require a shift in thinking and behavior away from the classical zero-sum model of economic competition to one of economic cooperation with sustainable development for all at its very core. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time and attention.
It's brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard a manifesto. That is essentially the position of the Caribbean and small island developing states on trade and climate discussions. Minister, that was absolutely fantastic, and I will steal all of it. So thank you. So now it gives me great pleasure to give the floor to Minister Legarda from Ecuador, a country that has really been flying the flag for sustainability and sustainable ecosystems and biodiversity for decades, and who also has a team here in Geneva who really have been leaders on issues of trade and environment and on plastics pollution as well. So it's a real honor to have you here this evening, Minister. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, Minister, for all your words. I believe Minister has taken all the hard work. I will keep the soft work and address to you in a short couple of words. But let me just first address you by thanking you for being here, for allowing me to be here, to all the organizers, of course, the WTO, of course, our amazing missions and our team that are here, the ambassador and all my team that is working here, but especially to all the organizations that have also taken place in this important public forum. The first thing that I have to sum up here is the importance that this forum has bring again, and this feeling, I believe, is not only mine, but from all the actors and all the actors that have participated in previous events like this. And this is positive because the multilateral trade system, I believe, and we all do, needs a force up, needs to be pushed forward. It hasn't been in a long time. We had a good outcome last year, but more is needed. And of course, today we feel that this could be something that it's again moving forward. So let me just first signal that message. And this is thanks to all of us and the organizations, but I will say especially because of the civil society gathered today here, who is putting forward the challenges, but also some of the solutions and the tools that can put together for governments to take actions. Then the second thing that I would like to signal here is the importance of signaling the problems that will take together different governments, different countries, and the challenges that the world faces. In this case, challenges to tackle together what we have ahead of us. Being climate, of course, one of them, one very important to take care of. I believe one of the main things has already been done, and why we are discussing this today and what we have discussing all these 3 days, it's because already civil society has been taking awareness of the problem that it's already here and it's been for a while. But the next step that needed to be taken, it's already been taken, that it's the will of the political, the will of the governments, the will that, in this case, I represent and the minister we represent at least for a while. That's an important step forward because, as I said, the main work that civil society, that universities, that different organizations take together, it's on the daily basis. But the most difficult thing to do is to put the political will forward. And I believe this step that has been taken with the Coalition for Ministers of Trade in Environment is a step forward to that important political will, and we discussed this afternoon in the panel. That was one of the right appointments that was made. One of the questions was also how can we involve civil society. I think civil society has been involved even before the governments, but it's good that the governments are taking a step forward for that. But the remaining challenges, or the most difficult ones, are still ahead of us, of course, and is the decision making. And before even the decision making, it's the getting together and get the basics right and according at least at some basic level. There's a lot of work to do there, and we will, as governments, will take our place as we need to. But of course, civil society has a major role to play in moving forward the willingness of different governments and different actors to that direction. Lastly, to be finished, let us not forget that what has bring us together here and what has bring many solutions to the world in many aspects of our lives, it's trade. And I think this is a key point to take into account because, as we have discussed, it's not that trade is the main problem to be tackled for climate change. It's trade that should be bringing the solutions for climate change, among with others that are already taking place in terms of financing and others. But if we get that right direction, I think we can do great things. But this is an important focus that we need to have. Lastly, I want to share some of the latest things that we as a country, even though it's a small country, but thank you for the words on the great contribution. And I want to tell you something about what we've been doing on that matter lately on this, especially on these last 2.5 years of administration of President Guillermo Lasso. The main one I will say, and recently happened, is the bond swap that we have achieved with the Galapagos Island for $1.5 billion. This has been so far the biggest debt swap in the world, debt for conservation. That'll mean that we will lower our external debt and we will have also funds dedicated to conservation, in this case for the Galapagos Islands. It's a major achievement, even though it has its own opposition inside of the country, but any way you want to see it, it's a win situation. And we're proud of it, and hopefully some of the activities will start by the end of this year and will show up on the next one to bring the main purpose of getting sustainability, getting protection for this important place in the world, but also to bring solution in terms of financing and support and building capacity for the people that need it, because there's people also living in this island, and there's producers in this island, and there's different activities. So it's part of a whole equation that needs to be taken account. But it's a good thing, and I wanted to share that with you. But we have also managed, and I also addressed this in a panel yesterday in the morning, that usually what happens when governments talk about regulation is that they go far behind for the needs that the private sector, the productive sector is taking place. They actually go faster. But in this case, regarding the circular economy law, I believe that at least we have gone at the same pace that the private sector, if not a little bit faster, which doesn't always happen in governments. Governments are slow for definition. But in this case, we've taken not only the law, but the regulation that just took place a couple of weeks ago. And this is happening very fast in the country. Still, there's some adaptation needed for the private sector, but there's good initiatives going on and great examples, not only for the region, but for the world, that are taking place, showing that sustainable production and taking care of the environment can be a piece of the same coin. So just a couple of things that I wanted to share about what we are doing, and we can, of course, we're bringing this to the table in terms of examples and actions that we can bring together, some of them related to trade, some of them indirectly related to trade. But hopefully we'll keep this dialogue together. We will love to keep coming all the inputs from the civil society, the universities, and all the help that we can get to keep moving the political willness towards this objective that we share all together. So just for that, in my side, let me thank again my team and my ambassador here, and of course all of the countries that are taking place on this important initiative. And let's move forward and let's keep looking at MC13 as a very good place to have also an advance on this matter. Thank you all for being here and let me be here. Okay.
Thank you very much, Minister. So we started this evening's session with 10 seconds of silence to honor and commemorate the victims of climate change. But I think we can end today with the spirit of hope. And the best way we can honor the victims of climate change is to work together to make sure that trade contributes to addressing climate change issues and contributes to greater sustainable development. And when I hear the words from both of the ministers, I actually do feel very hopeful that in our leaders, we have people that recognize the importance of civil society participation, of dialogue, of partnership, and more importantly, of just getting the job done. So the last thing I have to tell you this evening is another instruction from Caroline. Go eat, drink, chat, meet new people, and be merry. Thank you. Okay.